Good morning, yogis. Welcome to Sunday Sutras. This is where we gather virtually to connect, to discuss, and digest practical pieces of yogic wisdom from the Yoga Sutras so that we can apply them in real ways to our everyday life. So welcome, whether you're watching this live or on replay. I'm so glad to be able to connect to you in this way. So if you haven't yet said hello or introduced yourself to me, please do. I really love to be able to put a face to this imaginary audience that I speak to alone to a camera every week at 11. So that would really make me be reassured that I'm connecting to real people on the other side of this lens. Today, we are talking about the Niyamas. The Niyamas are the second step in the 8-limb path that Patanjali maps out in the Yoga Sutras. And they are principles for managing our lifestyle in a way that creates the most sustained joy. And today we're going to talk about those principles in terms of our inner life, so get ready for that. In the meantime, if I haven't been able to connect to you virtually or in person yet, my name is Kelsey Delane. And the reason that I show up live every week is because these teachings of the Yoga Sutras have radically transformed my life. Currently, I am a yoga teacher, Reiki master. I live in Orange County, and I teach not only physical yoga, not only asana, but I lead lectures throughout the county, and I teach on online platforms and one-on-one settings about the Yoga Sutras specifically, and yoga philosophy in more general ways, and how we can integrate these teachings, these pieces of wisdom that have proven through experience for centuries to transform our life. I help you break it down into ways that you can really apply to your unique life. So if we haven't connected yet, you can find me obviously here on Facebook, but also my website, KelseyDelaneYoga.com. Come check me out. You can schedule a phone call so that we can connect more in person, free 30-minute connection call, or you can schedule a session to work with me one-on-one, whether you're near or far, because we can Skype if in person doesn't work for you. So let's dive into the content today. Last week, we talked about the first step in the 8-limb path that Patanjali maps out in the sutras. To back up, the Yoga Sutras are the foundational text of yoga, and they were passed on orally through oral tradition for probably thousands of years until Patanjali wrote them down and packaged them in a way that is succinct. So we have 195 sutras or threads. They're little pieces of wisdom woven together that I consider to be a guidebook or a roadmap for living. And in chapter 2, there's 4 chapters. Chapter 2 is really for the newer yogi. It's a practical sort of yoga 101 guide. And in this chapter, we receive an 8-limb, 8-step journey that is intended to be practiced in order. And the order begins with the yamas, which we talked about last week. The yamas are relationship skills. The yamas are 5 principles that guide our approach to interacting with the outside world so that we can reach our goal, which is ultimately, hey Hannah, hey Shervin, ultimately the goal of yoga is to create more sustained joy. So this is a practice that is centered around the self, and the intention is not necessarily to make the world a better place. It's not about being a good person. It's not about righteousness or morality, but in honestly, it is about creating more joy for you. And joy that is sustainable. So there's a big difference between pleasure and joy, and that is where we often go so wrong. So Patanjali assumes that we are new and naive in our approach to living a yogic lifestyle. And he starts with mapping out 5 ways that we can engage with the outside world, engage with other human beings in ways that will bring the most joy to us. And gratefully, when we behave in those ways, when we nourish our own selves by showing up in relationships, practicing ahimsa, loving kindness, practicing satya, truthfulness, practicing asteya, non-stealing or generosity, practicing brahmacharya, moderation, and aparigraha, gratitude or enoughness. When we practice those things, not only are we filled up, but gratefully, it also nourishes our relationships, brings more joy to others, because prana is positive energy. Prana begets prana. Positive energy builds more positive energy. And so lucky for us, when we nourish ourselves, we gratefully, the symptom of that is to nourish other people too. So the next step is now to transition from the more external to the more internal. So we focus on our own lifestyle. And Patanjali again gives us 5 tools, 5 practices that we can best show up in how we manage our time, our energy, how we nourish our bodies in a way that will create the most joy, the most prana, and eliminate the opposite of prana, which is mala, residue, stickiness, debris, resentment. So mala can show up in our physical body, it can show up in our mind, it can show up in our heart. And when we have mala present on any level of the body or any level of our being, or more subtle elements of ourselves, then we feel weighed down. We feel a sense of dukkha. Dukkha is like discomfort, heaviness, lethargy. It's the opposite of sukha. Sukha is ease. Sukha is comfort, relaxation, joy, contentment. And so this is the reason that we work to practice these principles. Hey, Andrea, is not because to do otherwise would be wrong, but it's because we know that if we practice these things, we'll receive more joy. So for starters, Patanjali calls us to practice what is in Sanskrit is saucha. Saucha is cleanliness or purity. And so this could be how we keep our environment, the food that we eat, our hygiene for our physical body. And it can also be more subtle. So the thoughts that we think, the words that we say, the media that we consume. And so for today's discussion, we are walking through these 5 principles from the lens of our inner life. And I want to talk about our thoughts. I want to talk about the purity of our mind and the words that we speak. Because the thoughts that we think over and over again become our beliefs. And that's the place from which we act. And we can be clued in to the kind of thoughts that we think from the kind of words that we speak. So my invitation in our discussion today is to get really honest with yourself, to have the courage to take a look at how you use language, whether it's in your inner mind, your inner dialogue, and or in written language or verbal language, how you use language to create meaning and to co-create your reality, because that is the gift that we receive as yogis, is recognizing that we can be the hero of our own lives. We could choose to be the victim of circumstances and feel disempowered and feel like we're dragged about by our mind and by our circumstances. Or we can live the life of a yogi. We can make choices to take contrary action aimed at refinement, to become the hero of our life, to co-create the reality that brings us the most joy. And our thoughts, our words, how we use language is huge in revolutionizing the patterns between mind and body, revolutionizing our patterns of belief and thought and speech and action. And so today when we're talking about saucha, I want to call your attention to the quality of your thoughts and how pure, i.e. true, empowering these thoughts are. So what comes to mind, and this also includes your language too, what comes to mind is certain words that are disempowering or lack, they disempowering, I guess is the best word. Okay, so these disempowering words include the word just. So for instance, you're sending a text message or an email, or you're on the phone and you say, I just need to ask for your help. So that word just is minimizing your statement. It's taking some of the power, and it's in an attempt to ease into something that you're trying to say. So number one, I want you to look at, in your own thoughts, in your text messages, your emails, the words that you speak out loud, comments that you write on Facebook, look for the word just and how it shows up in your speech, internally and externally, and ask yourself if the statement would be more empowering, more true, more clear, more direct, more honest, if you were to cleanse out that statement by removing that word just. So play around with that. Another word that I hear often that can be disempowering is but. I love you, but. I want to be there for you, but. It essentially negates the thing that came before. Hey, Angeli, so good to see you. But negates the thing that came before. So I'm trying to work out, but I'm just so tired, right? It's like you're taking away power from the thing that you said first. So you can love someone and be angry with them. You can regret that you are unable to attend something and wish someone well, right? So look for where you use this word but and cleanse your language by seeing if it's possible to replace it with the word and. There are occasions where you're truly looking to use the word but because you want to negate the first thing. But, however, see, that is what I'm trying to say in this case. When we use it unconsciously, it undermines the thing that we said before. So take a look for that. The other word that I notice often is the word trying or try. So I'm trying to eat better implies that you're not succeeding. It means that because if you were eating better, you'd be eating better, but you're trying to eat better. That communicates that you're not, in fact, eating better. And some upgrades to that word could be, I'm learning to eat better. I'm practicing eating better, right? Because that implies that something positive is taking place. So look for the word try, like someone asks you to do something and you say, I'll try. It almost implies that it won't happen. So let me know if you agree or disagree. Feel free to comment here on this video. So the word try or trying implies that it's not happening. You could say, I'm doing my best. Like if you're not sure if you'll be able to attend and someone invites you somewhere, instead of saying, I'll try to make it, you can say, I'm unsure if I will be able to make it based on this, that, or the other, and I will do my best, right? There is such a different energy behind those two things, and it might sound like so subtle and nuanced that it doesn't make a difference. However, I invite you to practice replacing these disempowering words with more empowering words, and then experiment. Witness, observe. How does it feel to change the way that you speak to yourself, the way you speak to others, the way that you communicate in written language? And it's easy to do for me in written language because I can see it. I can start to type out a text message and I can catch myself with the word just and try again. I can go back and look at comments that I've written or Facebook statuses that I've written Or better yet, in my own journal. I can flesh out thoughts and feelings in my journal, and then I can go back and look for, with a refined mind, with glasses on for disempowering language, and I can review and see, how can I edit this statement, this paragraph, this sentence, or this journal entry? How can I edit it and adjust it so that it is true and empowering? Because a lot of times our thoughts are tricking us into believing that the way that we said it is the only true way. So I'm trying to eat better feels true. However, there is also another true way that is more empowering to say it, like I'm learning to eat better. I am practicing new strategies to eat better. And, the more that you reorient your language, the more that you're communicating to yourself in ways that are prana-filled and will create motivation and gusto to continue to move in that direction. So try on this practice of saucha, of cleansing, of purifying your thoughts through language. I know that I had a student that asked me about this recently, and my invitation is that you try on, especially through written language first, if you find that this is something that's tricky for you, and practice rewriting. So before you send a text message, pause, see if it could be edited to be more empowering, and try again. I'll read an example. I have a comment from a student, and I'm going to demonstrate how we can rearrange wording or replace wording to keep it true and empowering. So here's an example. So this student was making a request that we talk more about language, which is exactly what we're doing right now. She says, language is a barrier for me in my relationship and when I teach. Okay, so already in that sentence, language is a barrier for me. So that language that she just used, she's affirming something that she wants to change in the positive. So instead of saying language is a barrier for me, which is validating and sort of reaffirming this thing that she doesn't want, language is a barrier for me. Instead, if she is working on transforming this practice, she can say, in the past, language has been a barrier for me in my relationships and teaching. So she's already communicating to herself and others that change is in process. It doesn't mean she's mastered it, but it's true. In the past, language has been a barrier for me in relationships and teaching. Okay, so that's edit number one. Second sentence, I'm working on that, but would love to learn more knowledge about language and how to work on it. So instead of I'm working on that, but, because the but negates that she's working on it. I'm working on that and would love to learn more knowledge about language and how to work on it. So here you go. Here you go, Crystal. This is exactly how you do it. You take your own language and you go and edit it and practice it. Okay, sentence 3. I have a habit of pretty negative talk and thought patterns, and I'm aware and want to work on that. So I have a habit of pretty negative talk. She's affirming that habit by stating that. So instead, she can just say, I am learning to replace negative talk and thought patterns with more positive ones. I'm learning to, right? I also have a hard time sharing exactly what I'm thinking and can't get my point across. I trip over my words. So again, she's affirming the very thing that she wants to change. So instead of I have a hard time sharing exactly what I'm thinking, she can say, I would like tools to better share what I'm thinking in order to get my point across without tripping over my words, right? So instead of affirming that very thing that you want to change, frame your language in a way that uplifts your spirit by affirming the movement in the direction that you'd like and asking for what you need. So if you currently don't have tools for sharing your thoughts and feelings, then instead of saying, I don't have tools, or I'm unable to do this, say, I'm looking for tools, or I'm practicing tools, or I'd love more information on. And she did that in some ways. However, she also used the word but a couple of times, which then disempowered the fact that she's working on it. So Crystal, I hope that that helps in your effort to practice Saucha with your language. And today, perhaps part of your homework could be, whether you're Crystal or anyone else that wants to work on the way that you speak and think and use language, is to do a journal entry. Flush it out without any judgment, because this isn't about judgment. This is about practicing something new, and go back and edit it. So that's just simply the first yama, or rather niyama. And the second one is Santosha. So Santosha is contentment. It's gratitude. It's a way of looking at the world that affirms the abundance of life, that affirms that everything that happens provides some kind of opportunity. So I think of Santosha as like rose-colored glasses, but in a really positive way. Like it doesn't have anything to do with denial. So for instance, an example would be, you get in a car accident, and Santosha would be acknowledging your gratitude that no one was injured. If someone was injured, then you acknowledge your gratitude that no one lost their life. If someone lost their life, then you acknowledge in gratitude the time that they had or that you had with them. So that you're always looking for that which you can be grateful for, regardless of the circumstance, putting shining light on the positive without negating or ignoring or denying pain at the same time. So Santosha is not about living in denial and acting like life is rainbows and butterflies. However, it is looking for that which you can treasure in any moment. And I got to give another shout out to Stevie, my dear friend, who is walking through really difficult stuff. And I cannot tell you how many times I'll be on the phone with her, and she's processing something really heavy, and she'll say, and I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for the ways it's brought me closer to my friends and family. I'm grateful for how strong and independent I've become. And if I can watch her walk through serious grief and shine light on the things, I love you, Stevie, and shine light on the things that that she's gained, or the things that are bringing her joy in the moment or have in the past, then I know that we can all do it too. So that's Santosha. And the final three niyamas work together. So we have tapas, svadhyaya, and Ishvara pranidhana. So tapas is discipline to try new things. Tapas is new behavior. Svadhyaya is self-reflection or self-study. And Ishvara pranidhana is surrender to the outcome. So if you would like to practice using language in a new way, that would be your tapas. You can pick a really specific, isolated tapas. For instance, I am going to refine my language by removing the word just whenever possible. Simple, specific, one thing at a time. So you could look for the word just, trying, but, or you could look for ways that you affirm things that you don't want. Like I used to say all the time, I'm not creative. I used to say that all the time. I also would say, I'm so forgetful. I always forget things. I would say that. I was affirming this thing over and over again. And then I switched it first to, I'm learning to see my creativity, because I thought, because I can't paint, because I don't have the skills for painting or drawing that I imagined made me creative, it took work for me to recognize that my creativity shows up in different ways. So first I switched, I'm not creative, to I'm learning to see my creativity. I'm practicing creative behaviors. I'm open to exploring my creativity. And I got to rework that belief through language in ways that are authentic and honest. So I believe personally in finding affirmations or rewording things that feel true. So if you're working on seeing your beauty, your creativity, if you're working on trusting your memory, I suggest using the words I'm learning to, or I'm willing to, or I'm open to, so that you can create an affirmation or a statement that feels honest and empowering at the same time. So choose your tapas, your new behavior, keep it simple. So instead of, I'm going to radically revolutionize the way that I speak and think all day, every day, it's like too much. One step at a time. Choose one thing that you're going to look for. Step 2, svadhyaya, is self-reflection, self-study. So create a rhythm, a routine of reflecting on your new behavior. So maybe every night you journal, and in that journal entry, you take some time to go back and reread it with a lens of looking for the word just, looking for negative affirmations, looking for the word try, and editing it. So that is a practice of reflection. And you can then refine, okay, let's say 2 weeks in, you're golden on the word just, then create a new tapas and work on the word try, or work on a certain negative statement that you continue to affirm. So you can go through step 1 and 2 over and over again. Following step 1 and 2 is surrendering the results. So rather than beating yourself up or feeling frustrated when you notice those habits continue to show up that you're working on, simply surrender to the process and whatever time that it takes, and recognize that you are not in control of the outcome of your practice. However, you are in complete control of your commitment to the practice. So if the outcome is frustrating to you, celebrate your commitment to the practice, recommit to the practice, and focus your attention there. Focus your attention on the behavior, the tapas, and your willingness to reflect and refine, and then surrender the results. And I would love to hear if you already have an idea of what your tapas will be. Hey, Peter, type your tapas in the comments. Work to be positive in your language. Work to be specific and keep it to one thing at a time. If you would like some assistance in creating your tapas, please comment below. Let me know kind of what you're thinking, where you're headed, and I can help support you in creating a really specific, concrete tapas. So that's it, yogis. Those are our niyamas. Saucha, purity. Santosha, gratitude. Tapas, new behavior. Svadhyaya, self-reflection. And Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender. When you practice those things in terms of your inner world, then you can create more prana, more positive energy, and help reduce mala, reduce suffering, reduce the debris, the resentment, the negativity that can weigh you down. And you can have more sustained joy. And that's our goal. Thanks so much for joining me. Hey, Angel. I'm so glad to connect with you all in this way. Please let me know if you have questions, comments, feedback. And if you haven't already gone to kelseydelanyoga.com, connect with me there. Hope to see you soon. Bye, friends.